Call this meeting back to order again, and we'll continue on with our next land use application, or SUR application. And I think we have the landscape sanctuary.
Correct. Thank you, Commissioner Wilcox. Thank you also, Commissioner Richardson and Commissioner Baer. Again, my name is Corey Miller, and I'm a planner with Baseline Engineering Corporation. It's good to see you again this afternoon. The subject land use case before you is identified as Use by Special Review 2016 number 19, and it is titled Lionsgate Animal Sanctuary SUR. Next slide. Subject application was submitted on behalf of H. Joan Loud and Mr. Peter Winnie, who are both the current property owners of the subject parcel, as well as the administrators of Lionsgate Sanctuary. Lionsgate Sanctuary is a nonprofit organization that operates under a 501c3 status of the state of Colorado, as well as a license through the Colorado Division of Parks and Wildlife. And it is required to renew its license on an annual basis with CPW. If approved, the application will permit a use by special review to construct an animal sanctuary that will house an assortment of exotic animals, including 5 black bears, 5 tigers, 3 African lions, and 1 wolf hybrid. Lionsgate Sanctuary has been operating on their current parcel, which is located west of the town of Agate. It has been doing so since 1993. The current administrators took over the facility operations approximately 10 years ago. However, due to flooding issues at the current site, they wish to relocate the facility to the subject parcel located at 3641 County Road 106. And as the site is zoned agricultural, it will require use by special review. The site is located in west central Elbert County, specifically about 3.8 miles northwest of the Elbert community, or 1.2 miles north of the intersection of County Road 106 and Judge Adams Road. The site is approximately 43 acres in total size, and it currently contains a single-family residence and a barn of approximately 4,000 square feet. There is an instance of the 100-year floodplain that does pass through the center area of the parcel, as the terrain slopes to the center of the parcel from both the east and the west. However, there is some rock outcroppings with some native coniferous vegetation that provides some screening to the properties to the east. And as mentioned, the property is zoned agricultural. It is also surrounded by agriculturally zoned parcels with 1 residential agriculture parcel to the south. Next slide, please. This map provides a look at the property and its immediate vicinity. The 43-acre parcel is identified in green, and the existing improvements as well as the proposed improvements will be centered in and around the red square you see on this slide. As mentioned, the 100-year floodplain does pass through the property, and it's identified in blue on this slide. This slide was taken from the FEMA online mapping service, and it was accurate as of 5 o'clock yesterday. Next slide, please. This slide provides a zoom in and an excerpt from the SUR site plan document as provided by the applicant. It indicates both the existing improvements on site as well as those proposed. The existing residence is identified in black to the very east. There's an existing enclosure that will be incorporated into the facility, but that enclosure has never been used as an animal enclosure as of today. The existing barn is directly west of that structure. Again, it's approximately 4,000 square feet in total area, and it will provide an assortment of uses for the sanctuary, but mainly dry storage for food, water, and medical supplies. There will be 6 smaller enclosures constructed to the west of the existing barn that will measure approximately 60 feet by 40 feet, as well as 1 larger facility or enclosure measuring 70 feet by 220 feet. The proposed new enclosures, as well as the overall facility, will be encircled by a 10-foot wall. Each enclosure will have a 10-foot chain link wall, and the overall facility will have a chain link wall. It It will be constructed of 9-gauge chain link fence. There will also be a cantilever portion on top of the 10-foot wall that will provide an extra 2 to 3 feet. It will be tilted towards the facility and will be comprised of barbed wire and strands of electrified 16-gauge wire. The overall facility will be, sorry, could you go back to the previous slide? The overall facility, the encircling fence, will also have a black mesh fabric inserted to provide shade and screening of the facility. The site will not be open to the public. The only 2 permanent employees on the site will be the 2 administrators and applicants of the subject application. There will be occasional visitations from volunteers as indicated by the applicant during the summer months. However, it has been indicated by the applicant that their duties on site will be limited and they will never have direct access with any of the animals. The only other traffic associated with the proposed facility will be 1 delivery of water per month from McDonald's Farms, as well as an occasional visit by a veterinary physician in case one of the animals is to become ill. Finally, all waste will be collected from the animals and deposited into heavy-duty plastic bags, thrown into an on-site dumpster, which will itself be emptied on a weekly basis by Waste Management. Next slide, please. The application itself was submitted in October of last year, 2016. There were 2 rounds of review between the applicant and staff from Elbert County. It was eventually deemed complete and ready for review before the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. The original hearing date for the Planning Commission was dated February 14, 2017. However, that was eventually continued into March 21 of this year. The original BOCC hearing date was scheduled for March 8 and ultimately continued to today, April 12th. As part of the requirements for a USR application with Elbert County, the application was sent to numerous agencies, both within and outside of Elbert County's administration for review. Next slide, please. This slide provides a list of all referral agencies that did provide a response. Elbert County Engineering, as well as the Department of Health and Human Services and Intermountain Rural Electric, all provided no comment and no objections to the proposed application. The Elizabeth Fire Protection District did have many requirements that it wished to be satisfied, specifically the writing of an emergency management plan, which I'll speak to a little later in the presentation. And finally, the Colorado Division of Water Resources indicated that the existing on-site well, as it is a domestic well, could not be used to service the animals on site, and should the applicants wish to use groundwater for their facility, they will need to construct a second well on site. There was a community meeting held in June of last year at the Russell Gates Mercantile Building in Elizabeth, Colorado. Several concerns were brought up from several community members who came and spoke both in favor and in opposition of the proposed application. The summary of those concerns were largely categorically put into incompatibility with surrounding land uses, traffic concerns, and safety concerns. The applicant was on site. Obviously, they hosted the community meeting, was there to answer as many questions as they could. Over the course of time that this application has been under review, Elbert County staff has received several letters, both in favor and several letters both in opposition of the proposed application. It has also received 1 petition in favor of the application and 1 petition opposed to the application. That information has been included in your commissioner package for review. So in summary, staff reviewed the application against both the requirements for use by special review in the agricultural zone district, which this land use is entitled to be constructed within, as well as the Elbert County Master Plan. In both instances, staff determined that it satisfied the requirements for approval, but I would like to specifically move through those requirements over the next couple slides. In regards to approval of an SUR application, subsection A indicates and requires staff to review the application as to whether or not it would be in compliance with the Elbert County Master Plan. The The Elbert County Master Plan currently does not address uses by special review. It also does not currently address animal sanctuaries. Therefore, it does have language that requires staff to then review the application against the zoning regulations, and as such, the proposed use is a legal entitlement within the agricultural zone district per review by special review. There is no proposed subdivision of land with this application, therefore the subdivision regulations do not apply in this case. Subsection B determines whether or not the proposed use is in harmony and compatible with the surrounding area and neighborhood. The existing facility is located on an agricultural property today, and it is surrounded by similar zoning and uses as the proposed parcel. It is operated under the current ownership for the past 10 years without significantly impacting any land uses either on the existing property or the surrounding property. Therefore, when we try to determine harmony for the proposed application, since this isn't a special use that is clearly dictated in these zoning regulations, we have to compare it to its context. And as this is proposed on an agricultural zone, it's existing on an agricultural zone, it's surrounded by agricultural zoning today, and it would be surrounded by agricultural zoning in the future. And over the past 10 years, it has not negatively impacted land uses on either, again, the current property or surrounding properties. It is therefore determined by staff that it would be harmonious on the proposed property. Next slide, please. Well, actually, go back, please. Subsection C determines whether the proposed special use will adversely impact the provision of public services. The proposed use likely will not have any impacts on public services. As mentioned, the traffic associated with the proposed use is very minimal, and under review by baseline engineering, based on the traffic associated with the use, it would not require any additional land use impact, construction or improvements. Subsection D determines whether the special use will adversely impact the environment. Again, the application isn't proposing any significant impervious materials on site that would affect anything like stormwater runoff. As well, the applicant has indicated that they will collect all waste associated with the animals. Therefore, staff finds that the environmental impacts will be non-existent. Subsection E determines whether the proposed special use will increase traffic congestion or burden the existing road system. Again, there will be very minimal traffic associated with the proposed use. Subsection F determines whether the special use will be adequately landscape buffered and screened. Shade cloth will be inserted into the fencing material to provide screening, and there is some existing topography that will block the view of the proposed facility. Two properties to the east and northeast. The property is directly abutted by a parcel to the north that is owned by the current property owner, and to the south by a separate property owner that, when we reached out to, is expressing support of the proposed application. Subsection D determines whether the special use will not otherwise be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the present and future inhabitants of Elbert County. Again, when staff reviewed the proposed application, they felt that the applicant has addressed all land use impacts associated with the use. And it should be noted that the applicants have exceeded the minimum construction safety requirements that are prescribed by the Colorado Parks and Wildlife. We reached out to the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Division to determine whether or not the facility is in compliance with their minimum construction requirements, and they clearly indicated to staff that they have been exceeded. It should also be mentioned that the animals on site are considered elderly. Several of the cats have been declawed, and no significant safety impacts are anticipated by staff. Planning Commission reviewed the application on March 31st of this year. Several members of the community, again, were in attendance to testify both in favor and against the proposed application. The Planning Commission provided mixed perspectives on the application. Those who were not in favor of the proposed application felt there were concerns in the subject areas of emergency management planning, as well as tracking of the animals, as there are only 2 employees on site, and incompatibility with surrounding uses. Those in favor of the proposed application cited the flawless track record that the applicants have had on their current location over the course of the past 10 years, and that proper safety precautions have been met. Planning Commission voted on a motion to recommend approval, and that motion carried on a vote of 5 to 3. Therefore, it is the recommendation of staff, and because the application has satisfied the requirements for use by special review under the Elbert County zoning regulations, and because the Planning Commission is recommending approval, that the Board of County Commissioners approve use by special review number 2016-19, subject to the following conditions. Conditions 1 through 3 are general for all uses by special review. They require all notification materials be removed from the property within 7 days of this date, April 12th, as well as all outstanding fees be paid in relation to the application, and that the SUR site plan documents be recorded within 180 days. Next slide, please. Condition 4 speaks to the referral comment provided by the Division of Water Resources, indicating that the existing on-site well cannot be used in relation to the proposed facility. Condition number 5 requests that a redacted agreement between McDonald's Farms for water delivery be delivered to the CDS department so that they can verify that delivery of water is indeed the method of procurement. Condition number 6 requests that all requirements outlined in the letter from Elizabeth Fire Protection District be satisfied, specifically the drafting of an emergency management plan. It should be noted that the applicant has begun to draft this emergency management plan. The draft was included in your packet. She has reached out to both Elizabeth Fire as well as the Office of Emergency Management and the Sheriff's Department. As the applicant has indicated to staff, they've all had eyes on it. However, it will require a final signature from these agencies. Condition number 7 requires that the staff report and all necessary and ancillary documents related to the use by special review be approved in the case file. Condition number 8 requires that building permits be processed for the installation of the proposed enclosures. And then finally, condition number 9 and 10 were added by the Planning Commission when they reviewed the case on March 31st. Condition number 9 requires that when and if all of the animals shall pass away, that the USR be stripped from the property and that no new animals be allowed to be taken into the facility, and that any new animal sanctuary associated with this parcel would have to be re-permitted, and that the existing USR would cease to exist. And finally, condition 10 requires that specifically not just Elizabeth Fire, but also the Office of Emergency Management, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and the Sheriff's Department be signatories on an emergency management plan that is to be drafted by the applicant. And with that, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thanks for bearing with me. If you have any questions that you might have.
I have to make a disclosure. If the applicant would come forward, I want to ask a question. In 2006, when this was heard before, I was on the Planning Commission. I know that this is a completely new application and it will stand on its own merits. But if you believe that I cannot act appropriately, you can ask me for a recusal. If you ask me for a recusal, I want to point out a couple of things. If I am recused, that is the equivalent of a negative vote, because it takes 2 votes to pass. You also run the risk that you will not have somebody to second a motion. But it is your decision whether you ask me to sit back or not.
Thank you, Commissioner Thayer. This is a completely different application, and we have no problem with you serving on this committee today.
I appreciate that, but I felt like I had to make that disclosure just for transparency reasons.
Thank you.
If I could, really quickly, for the record, I would like to mention that the county commissioners did have the opportunity to tour the site and facility where it exists west of the town of Agate, and that tour took place on April 6th of this year, 2017.
Just one quick one before the applicant speaks. When was this current application begun?
In October of last year,
October 16th?
October 16th of 2016. If you need an additional information, the pre-application was actually held in May of last year. To give some information on why there was a significant time, I think that the applicant was trying to come up with the funds necessary to submit the application. That's why there was a period of delay between May and the time that the public hearing was held, and then the final application in October. I'd like to let the applicant make the presentation. Sound okay? I think we need a moment to switch out computers and projection. While the applicant is getting her presentation underway, it has been indicated to me by the CDS department that the Planning Commission meeting was held on March 31st, whereas my slide incorrectly indicated March 21st. I'd like to make that correction. Correction, my slide indicated March 31st. The Planning Commission meeting was held on March 21st, for the record.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Joan Lau. I live at 3641 County Road 106 in Elizabeth, Colorado, and also at 22111 County Road 150 in Agate, Colorado. I prepared a presentation for you here. Anyway, sorry about that. Prepared a presentation for you. I'm going to invite Patty Maldonado up to join me at one point in the presentation to narrate. And just to introduce other members of the team, my partner Peter Winnie, my attorney Robert Lees, and Michelle Stevens. Michelle Stevens and Robert Lees are our attorneys. We hired them because we wanted to make sure that this was just a process we weren't familiar with, and so we wanted to make sure we did everything right. So without further ado, I'm going to just get started in the interest of time. I don't have a remote, so I have to sit and do this manually, but I think it should work out just fine. Okay, so let's just begin. I will be very quick with this. This is just a summary of our request. We're requesting approval of special use by review permit to relocate the remaining animals at Lionsgate Sanctuary. Our existing location is 22111 County Road 150 in Agate. That property is 42.24 acres. The proposed location is 3641 County Road 106 Elizabeth, and that property is 43.3 acres. We also own the adjoining property at 3635 County Road 106, which is a total of 85 acres. Both of those properties are zoned A1 agricultural, which allows for a sanctuary for non-domestic exotic animals as a special use by review. Just a little background and history. We established in 2007, Lionsgate Sanctuary provides a safe and permanent home to abused wildlife born in captivity that have been subjected to abuse, abandonment, and neglect. The remaining animals that we have, and there are 11, I think that you had, Corey had just misspoke about the number of animals. There are just 11 that we have left. They're all classified as seniors. That includes 6 big cats, all on the endangered species list, and 5 bears. We're licensed and inspected by the state of Colorado, Department of Natural Resources, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife Division. The animal habitats must comply with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife rules and regulations. We are also a 501c3 nonprofit corporation that we fund with some in-kind assistance and private donors. Peter Winnie and I are the executive directors and trained caretakers, and we live on the site. I have 16 years experience working with exotic animals. Peter has 24 years of experience, including working at Ocean Journey, Marine World Africa, USA, Siegfried and Roy Productions, Great Cats of the World, and Serenity Springs. We are not open to the public. We have no employees. The sanctuary receives no government funding, and we make no money from this endeavor. We're solely out to protect these animals and let them live their lives in peace. So the reason for the request is flooding. The current site is located on a flat piece of land, best described as a kind of like a peninsula with stream channels on either side. And in the spring and summers of 2015 and 16, we had multiple incidents of flooding to animal compounds and habitats, the house, well, and other areas of the property. The flooding creates risks to the concrete footing and barriers surrounding the habitats. Flooding has caused damage to the house, basement, water heater, and multiple incidents with private well and pump operation. Many of the animals had to be moved to higher ground during these flooding periods. This was stressful for the seniors as well as the animals with disabilities. The flooding, damage, and future risks prevents us from reasonably continuing our operation and caring for our animals at the present location. Pardon me. Colorado Parks and Wildlife has observed the damage and authorized the request to relocate. Just really briefly showing you some of the, hang on, I have a little pointer here. This just shows you the erosion under the compound, these two, and this is within the enclosure. And this is stream channels on the north side here, and this is on the south side. This just shows the path of the water into the compounds. And it goes right through the compounds here. So the water is in and surrounding the animal compounds and enclosures. Again, path of water over the enclosures, and this is the stream channel on the south side. These are just flooding pictures showing damage to the foundation of the house and the water heater. The new proposed site is double the size of our previous or current site, so it's 85 acres versus 43. The animal structures are on only 2.2 acres of a total of 85, compared to the current structures which occupy 10 acres of a total of 42.24 acres. Property is already zoned A1. The proposed site is not visible from County Road 106 due to being located off a private dead-end dirt road and the site having significant ridge, rock outcroppings, and tree cover. The animal shelters and home are not located in the floodplain. Pardon me, I have just too many gadgets in front of me. Okay, so this slide shows the proposed location, and the X marks the proposed location of the animal enclosures right next to the existing barn. This slide shows an aerial view of the proposed location marked with an X. And if you look down here, this is County Road 106, and then you travel north on Judge Adams Road and take a left here, and the facility is located here. And then the Judge Adams Road is a dead-end road. It dead ends up here. And I think the driveway is about 1/4 of a mile. Oops, right? This slide shows our current location, and again, what we just want to point out here is we're actually located right on a county road currently. This is our driveway, and currently we occupy about 10 acres, and due to loss of animals over time, we are condensing it to about 2.2 acres. Oh, it did? No connection. Welcome to Elbert County. Okay, so this is slide 14. This slide shows our current location, marked with an orange X there. Oops. Use that pointer. Right here. And it shows surrounding properties and homes. Those are the yellow X's. We have a neighbor that shares a fence line with us. This is Dave Eman. He runs his cattle on his property, and he owns all the property around Lions Gate. And Dave Eman did write a letter of support, was not able to be here today. We have a neighbor across the street, Jim Hansen, who also wrote a letter of support, but was unable to be here today. And then just up the road, we have another neighbor, Beth McKnight, and she has also written a letter of support. Okay, this slide shows the zoning of surrounding properties. So the parcels to the north, south, east, and west are zoned A1. There's one residential agricultural zone parcel to the south, and parcels range in size from 32 to 60 acres. It should be noted here in this slide that we share a fence line with our neighbors to the south, and both neighbors, the Arnells and the Williams, are in support of our application. We own this property to the north of the proposed site, and the properties to the east, we actually rent this property out. And the properties to the east of us are separated by a ridge with massive rock outcroppings and a dense tree cover as well as Judge Adams Road, which is right here. We have other neighbors located on Judge Adams Road that have indicated their support. Dr. Tom Atkins, who's a veterinarian, he lives on Judge Adams Road, and he has offered his support as well. There's one property here to the west of us, and we share a fence line with them. This next slide shows we've been informed that they are not in support of our application. And this photograph is taken from their property line. And if you could see this little black dot here, that little black dot there, what it is a 10-foot by 10-foot piece of 9-gauge chain link covered in a shade cloth. And it just shows you what it would look like from their property line. Anyway, as I mentioned, we were aware that the owners of the property oppose this proposal. Okay, so these other considerations, what I'm talking about here, these were a number of the issues that were brought up at the community meeting last June. I just want to address them very briefly. So we are in keeping with the rural aesthetic. We're only going to be using 2.2 acres of the land for the animals. The rest of the acreage will be preserved. Division of Water Resources states that we're not able to use our well for non-domestic animals, so we had a couple of options. We could dig a new well, which was cost prohibitive. It was almost $20,000. And the second option, which is the one we selected, was to hire a water delivery service. We need approximately 1,500 gallons per month for our animals. The water would be delivered approximately once every 4 to 6 weeks. The water would be stored in 3 500-gallon tanks in our 4,000 square foot heated barn that has a concrete floor. The issue of noise was raised also in the meeting. Based on 10 years of experience, there's minimal noise associated with these animals. There's also significant distance between the proposed site and the adjoining properties. And I do want to just clarify the concerns raised by surrounding property owners regarding the noise that a lion makes. We have 2 male lions, and they may call out once a day, and it will last for several seconds. So from our point of view, the noise from these animals is considered to be minimal. And as we all know, living in Elbert County, we're all used to the routine sounds of target shooting, wild coyotes, yipping, farm machinery, dogs barking. So compared to those noises, we don't think that's an issue for surrounding property owners. Waste removal. It'll be bagged, all the waste will be bagged in heavy-duty plastic bags, placed in a dumpster and removed once per week by local waste management services, which are already in place on Judge Adams Road. Smell, this issue was raised in the meeting as well. It will be addressed later in the presentation. Impact on roads, minimal impact on any county road or on the private dead-end road as a result of the sanctuary because it is not open to the public. The only change will be once every 4 to 6 weeks a water truck will bring water in. And as I mentioned, that the local trash removal is already in place on Judge Adams Road, and as landowners who utilize the road, the private road, we contribute financially as do others who utilize the private road to its maintenance. Impact on the environment. The engineering review and staff report concluded that the impact on the environment would be minimal. Impact on wildlife. 10 years in the current location reinforces that the sanctuary animals do not negatively affect or impact wildlife. Property values, had Mr. James McCloskey, who is a licensed real estate broker in the state of Colorado since 1978. He's also the president of the American Real Estate College. In his letter, which is in your packets, He notes that over the last 10 years, quote, the surrounding market near Lionsgate Sanctuary has increased significantly and is continuing to do so. He goes on to state that, quote, sales within a 10 to 20 mile radius of Lionsgate Sanctuary has shown a consistent appreciation during the intervening period, end quote. Okay, just a little bit on safety here. So the property would be licensed and regulated and inspected by the state of Colorado, Colorado Parks and Wildlife. The license provides the assurance that the sanctuary is safe and public welfare is protected. We held a site visit and will implement recommendations from Elbert County Sheriff's Department, the Office of Emergency Management, and Elizabeth Fire Department. Security features, we would install controlled access gate, security fence, barbed wire, no trespassing signs, security cameras, which we don't have now, but we're going to install. On-site medical clinic, which means we don't have to transport the animals off-site, and we don't have any staff. And that's a big safety issue because as owners, we have the most invested and the most to lose if anything goes wrong. So not having to watch over a great deal of staff is very advantageous from a safety point of view. Over the last 10 years, we've not had a single safety incident or nuisance complaint with the property, our neighbors, Elbert County, or the state of Colorado. These are the proposed structures. 6 enclosures, 60 by 40 feet, and 1 enclosure, 70 feet by 220 feet. Enclosures are constructed of 9-gauge chain link, 10 feet high, with an inward cantilever on top, constructed of 3 barbed wires and 2 16-gauge electrified wires. The concrete footing extends 12 inches below ground and 4 inches above ground. The 10-foot-high security fence would be the same construction as the animal enclosures with an outward cantilever. At the community meeting, there were some concerns raised about the negative impact of sanctuary animals on livestock. And so I'm going to show you this video. This is a video of our neighbors' cattle who tend to come and visit us on a regular basis. They, I suppose, in keeping with the grass is greener on the other side, they come to visit us all the time. And so this is just a video showing that there's really, literally no impact on them. So what you're seeing is, in the background, the perimeter fence, and these cattle are just grazing. I think they just broke down the fence and they're grazing right next to our sanctuary animals. The video is terrible here, I apologize, but in the background there are lions and tigers. On the right, there's a tiger. In the middle, there are 2 male lions, and on the left is another tiger. And as you can see, the cattle don't seem to be terribly stressed. I also want to just point out that there are lots of ranches around Lionsgate current location. Some were there before the sanctuary opened in 1993, and some developed after 1993. But there's a Lazy K Ranch, which has cattle and hosts horse events. There's the Fiddleback Ranch, the Abbott Ranch, and there's not ever been any complaint or concern registered with any owner of cattle that there was a problem. There are just a couple of more videos that I would like to show you. I'm going to ask Patty Maldonado to come up and narrate for me. And again, these were issues raised in the community meeting and have to do with the potential negative impact of the sanctuary animals on horses. And so I'm going to pass this over to Patty to narrate.
Hi everyone, thank you for your time today. My name is Patty Maldonado. I live at 1584 East Mill Road in Lawrenceburg. And I think my credentials for equine.
Point of order. I'd like to point out this woman is truly a supporter. It should be allotted to 3 minutes that the rest of us are going to be allotted. Not be allowed to show this video during this presentation because it goes more than 3 minutes. We'd like to have her do her presentation with the supporters in the 3-minute timeline.
I would like to say that if the purpose of the board is to get to the truth and the values of what we're looking at today, that I bring to you my expert knowledge on equine.
I'd like to make one other comment, if I may. This video will show horses walking near the caged animals. This is unscientific. These animals could have been, these horses could have been doctored in any number of ways to prevent them from reacting to the animals.
Okay, here's where we're at. And I appreciate the comments, but really, if you could, we need to allow the applicant, because it was part of their submitted. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll try to, if you could, try to keep it to 3 minutes, is that possible? How?
I'll certainly do my best.
Okay, that's what we can do, but it was actually presented and it was all part of their submittal to us. So they're just in the process of reviewing that with us. Okay?
And during public comment,
Okay?
you're more than welcome to make those comments as well.
Yes.
Your response to it.
Thank you.
You will have ample time to present. We're not limiting anything. You guys will have all the time.
Thank you. I'd like to clearly state that if there
3 minutes.
is any question as to whether these animals were drugged and it has any factor in your decisions, I'd be happy to bring them down again and have them vet checked and reproduce this for you. So if there's any question about that, I would resolve it without question. This first video you're going to see, we had 3 horses that we brought in. They're all at different levels. Us horse owners did not know each other. The Palomino horse is one of our horses. My daughter is handling him. He's a tried and true, been there and done that type of horse. The second horse was one that actually resided in Elbert County. Didn't know how old he was because he wandered onto property and the horse owners didn't want him back. His name is Duncan. He's the bay. We had a third horse who's a 6-year-old bear who is like 60 days under saddle, which in horse terms is a very green horse. It's not a been there, tried and true horse, hasn't seen the world, hasn't done a lot. So we brought 3 different types of horses to the facility to see what their reaction would really be, bearing in mind that nobody would ever need to be this close to these animals with their horses in real life. The first video just shows Duncan and Jake, the Palomino, looking at the tiger, very relaxed. I think it's important to realize that they're alert, their ears are up, they're calm and they're relaxed. My daughter was so confident that she decided to go ahead and crawl on her horse. So confident, he's eating, his demeanor is totally calm. He's not on the muscle, he is not showing angst. And that's the way these horses reacted the entire time. They never showed any signs of concern whatsoever for these animals. I think it's important to realize that horses are flight animals, but there's a conception that they can sense a dangerous animal from one that's not. But I promise you, take your horse and expose them for the first time to a llama, even cattle, you'll get a reaction that would suggest that they cannot tell the difference between a predator and domestic livestock. The second video that we're going to show you has a lioness on the right-hand side of the screen and a tiger on the left-hand side. And if you watch the left-hand side, you're gonna see a tiger run up and turn the corner and then go lay down as if he's hoping he could spook these horses and was unsuccessful. And the horses, again, remain very calm. I will point out they're alert. They don't appear to be drugged. Their ears are forward. They're not sagging at the lip. Their tail head is not dropped. I assure you they were not doctored. The next video has Katie riding Duncan, and now we're inside the perimeter fence line. There's a tiger there in the corner that you can see, and he is just checking it out. Again, he's alert, but he's not concerned. He's not on the muscle. He is not looking to bolt. He is not showing a flight response. I think these horses are savvy enough to understand there's a fence there, honestly. You'll see the tiger get up and walk, and you'll see the horse remain calm. As a matter of fact, Gabe commented that he was kind of listening towards the tiger as if he had curiosity about him, but not concerned. The next video we're going to see is Paris, the younger horse. It was very green. And we just have a brief picture here, and I want to point out that the horse is between the handler and the tiger. And the horse is not, a horse who's scared will kind of list and lean away from the tiger. She is eating casually and comfortably, showing no angst whatsoever. And this is a horse with very limited travel and exposure to the world, if you will. We call this the trifecta. You're going to see there's a tiger in one corner, a lion in the front, a tiger to the right. My daughter is on her horse, bareback with a halter on. I don't recommend that for everybody, but she's a seasoned rider and he's a very well-broke horse. We were hoping that maybe the lion would get up, so Peter said, well, turn around and walk it in a circle and come back and see if we can get some activity out of the animals. I think it's important to observe that he doesn't even look back. He could care less. I think it's also important to observe the behavior of the cats in the sanctuary. They're not showing aggressive behavior. They're not acting like they want to eat him. They're not acting like they have much concern other than mild curiosity. And that was our experience with all three horses. And again, if there's any question as to whether these animals were doctored, I would be more than happy to redo this with a vet on site. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Patty. Okay, conclusion. Safety is paramount for many different reasons, to protect the animals, to protect the public, and it's a crucial issue for us. We've operated 10 years safely and successfully in Elbert County with no complaints or issues. We need to relocate due to multiple severe flooding incidents, and we would be moving to a property more than double the size of the current location. The property also has great natural topography for the use, and we have performed outreach to the neighbors and received a great deal of support. I want to say one final thing, and that is that people have asked us over and over, why do you do this? What's in it for you? And I can just say that, simply put, it's a labor of love. And even horse people will have horses that they care for and look after and ride, so there's recreational activity there. And then those horses get too old and they're put out to pasture. Those horses are still loved and cared for because it's a labor of love. And that's what this is all about. I'm done. Thank you very much for listening.
Right, at this time, if we could, we have public comment, please, and you could do that. Now, one thing, I mentioned
Yep,
previous
so,
to
So Vince Harris, what I'm gonna do, like we did at the planning commission meeting, is queue up about 5 people up here for the chairs and save some time to go through. So I'll call the names out, and if you can then speak in the order that I call them, and then I'll keep calling other people's names to come on up to replace those who have talked. So the first 5 people to come on up, and in this order is Curtis Ingalls, Lee Lindsay, Joel Wordler, Christina Brinkworth, and Chris Burnett. So Curtis is up first.
And Vince, if I could, prior to starting,
I'm gonna save my precious 2 minutes by walking over and
if I could make a few comments, kind of establish a few kind of rules here. First of all, we're gonna have quite a few comments. If your comment is similar or the same to a prior message, if possible, could you summarize it and not take all 3 minutes? We are allowing 3 minutes for everyone to speak. We're not shortening that in any way. So, but if it's the same comment, we'd appreciate that. The next thing, if there's any comments or something that you want to bring from the audience, please, could we minimize that, maybe raise of hands, if possible, and try to minimize the comments so everybody gets the opportunity. And if you do have a comment, you can take your time to speak. So if we could, that would minimize the comments from the.